Okay, looks like I'm live. I hope that's the case. Hi, everybody. I haven't been here. I haven't been here live on this group in forever. So, hello, everybody. And if you're new to this group, welcome. You have found the most amazing stepmom community on on all of social media. I really think that's true, and I think a lot of the people in the group would say the same thing. If you've tried some other places, um, you'll get the picture pretty quickly that this is a very special place. We treat each other with respect here. And that brings me to the topic of today's conversation. I shared in the group a few days ago that I was speaking to a woman who is my coaching client. She's my coaching client in another part of my business where I do personal development coaching and business coaching. But she happens to also be a stepmother. So she didn't reach out to me for stepmom coaching, but life is life, right? And it all intersects. So this woman, this stepmom, had been away for a week's holiday with her partner and his two teenage daughters. And something came up that was kind of bugging her. So she mentioned it in our session, which was that the 12-year-old daughter, they were renting this Airbnb in a nice location. And, excuse me. And the 12-year-old daughter had been in the bathroom for about 2 hours, as 12-year-old girls would do. But what happened was, stepmom mentioned this to her partner, and and he said, "Yeah, that's what kids do," or something, and left it at that. And so her issue was, she said, "Well, I really think that kids should be taught to respect the other people in the house and not do things like that." So I shared this little anecdote on the group because I wanted to see what everyone would say. And a number of people chipped in with excellent suggestions about how to teach a child of this age to be respectful and how to make rules that make time for everybody to share the bathroom. And, the sample responses that the stepmom could give, how she could talk to the stepdaughter and explain about how sometimes she needs to use the bathroom and about how there's only one bathroom there and maybe they can all, have a certain time of the day and all those things that are super helpful. But as far as I'm concerned, were not the point, not the point at all. Somebody said maybe she needs to talk to her partner to explain her needs. To which I thought right away, does a grown man need to be told that people need to pee sometimes? So here's the thing. Respect in general, and with respect to this story, regarding this story, comes in 3 stages. And they're kind of 3 levels of coaching as well, 3 levels of support for the stepmom. And the first level is exactly this that we've been talking about, the sort of brick and mortar things that you can do to regulate these kind of situations to have a smoother household. Like, these are not kids in my story, they're not kids who live full time with this stepmom. So this is not a kind of ongoing issue of how to negotiate time in the bathroom. But that's a thing that could really be, it could really resolve the problem, let's say. But that's not a respect problem. That is a, you know, household management, family dynamics, social intervention kind of problem. And you can get a lot of good advice about that in this group. You can even get that level of advice in other kinds of groups where people will share, what did you guys do to rein in a 12-year-old girl who's in the bathroom all the time? That's a thing. check my internet connection. I hope that's not a thing. Okay, so you can get that kind of advice, tips for how to better manage like more people in the house and there's only one bathroom. Or, the girls are making a mess of their bathroom. How do I get them to whatever? Like, if you want to go there, you'll get lots of advice. In this group, more respectfully probably than in other groups, but other stepmom groups can help you at that level. When it's about respect, I want to say that we all have a different way of internalizing what that means to be respected or disrespected. So I'm not talking about being, instances where you are being frankly disrespected, like where a kid is rolling their eyes at you, or where you say hello and they don't say hello back, where they're actually being in your face about being disrespectful. That's a whole different kettle of fish. And we'll get to that later on. But in this particular case, in this story, the stepmom felt it. She said, like, I feel really strongly that kids should learn to respect other people in the household. So this was triggering her in a respect place. Even though this child was not looking at her, not doing anything, not being mean, they get along. There's no tension between them. This trigger is about not being respected by her partner. She is triggered because she told her partner, the bathroom has been occupied for 2 hours, and he did not take any action to change that. That's where the disrespect is happening. That's a grown-up who does not need to be told that other people sometimes have to pee and should not need to go across the road to Starbucks to use the bathroom. That's where the disrespect is happening. And that needs to be addressed in a completely different way. It doesn't mean that you have to get angry. It doesn't mean that you have to make a scene. But I say this all the time. Your partner, the father of these stepchildren, is completely responsible for the quality of life environment that he brings to the table in your relationship. He's responsible for the life that he's creating with you, for his part of it. And, if he is bringing a situation where you can bring something to his attention and he kind of tells you that he doesn't care, that you're being inconvenienced by one of his kids, that's going to be a problem. It should be a problem. So that's the place where we so often put the problem onto the backs of the stepkids that really belongs in our relationship with our partner. That's where it belongs. That's where your betrayal is happening. That's where your indignation should be focused. So you can say, that's not okay with me. That I just kind of politely and maybe obliquely pointed out to you that I'm being inconvenienced by one of your kids. And I need you to show me that you care about how I feel in this relationship circumstance. This brings us to the whole kettle of fish, which I won't go into here. There are lots of there's so many episodes of Essential Stepmom podcast. So if you guys are a little bit new to this group, I have not really been making new episodes, but there are like over 120 episodes of the Essential Stepmom podcast, which is available on all the places, Apple and Spotify and YouTube. And there are so many hours of me explaining family dynamics in the step family. You can go there and dive in. But many couples get together in this kind of situation with the illusion that it's going to be a kind of a family with part-time kids living in it. And that is not what happens. So I'm not trying to say that you don't ever get to enjoy the nice feeling of being all together, but this can only work long term. It can only work if you are absolutely clear that you are not the new wife and mother in this picture that just had the photograph of somebody else cut out of it and yours stuck in. There is no dynamic in the world that works to sustain that. These are not your children. You're not going to raise them. You can't reprimand them. You can't do anything. You can't do anything that the dad should be doing. That's what I want to say. I don't mean that you can't respond to things, okay? So there is a version of this in which the stepmom was not at all triggered around an issue of respect. And she just walks up to the bathroom door and knocks on it and says, "Hey, I gotta pee. Can I get 5 minutes in there? You can come back afterwards." And there's like no emotion involved. There's no hesitation. There's no anything. It's just an interaction between two people. That can happen. Like bang, bang, bang. "Hey, sorry to bug you. I really have to pee. There's only one bathroom here. Can I have a minute?" That's an option. I'm not saying that you can't engage with your stepkids that way. But when it gets to be all about how these kids are being raised and respect and whatever, like, it's not your lane. Except to say that the way that your husband or your partner is choosing to raise his kids around those issues affects you very much, because it shows something about who he is, particularly when it comes to, kind of insisting on a level of behavior in polite society, because you are not just a lady that lives there. I mean, kind of in a way you are a lady that lives there, in the sense that you're not somebody who can be treated any old way. He is responsible for how his kids treat you. Um, so that has to come to the surface every once in a while. So there's this conversation about um, him respecting you in the space where his kids are, and making sure to some extent that his kids are not inconveniencing you. And that would have to do with other things that you do for them as well, like tidying up after them or doing their laundry, or helping with homework, and like whatever it might be. You do those things as a favor to your partner, and he appreciates that you're doing those things. It's not necessarily the kids who have to appreciate you. And that moves us into, so that was the second stage, if you didn't get that already, okay? The first stage is just like what you can do to modify your household to create an environment that goes more smoothly, so that you don't bump up against these moments that you feel as disrespectful. And the second stage is addressing it where it actually belongs, which is with your partner. And he gets to have some parenting moments with his kids where he explains that it's important to him that he helps them notice when they might be inconveniencing other people, because that's actually a really successful life strategy that he wants them to know. And fathers have this job of guiding their kids into adulthood. That is the job of a father. So it's completely appropriate for dads to turn things into teaching moments. And it doesn't have to be a reprimand or a punishment. It can happen later on and not right in the heat of the moment. There doesn't have to be a fight about it. But he has to think about ways to start integrating, polite behavior into what he teaches his kids. Now, the third phase, can you guess what I'm going to say? Maybe you can guess already. But this is where we move out of stepmom coaching and into the broader kind of life coaching, personal development, consciousness coaching that I do. This is about respecting yourself and never expecting to fill that up in yourself from outside of you. It is not anyone else's job to give you permission to respect yourself. You don't require other people to respect you in order to be able to respect yourself. It doesn't come from outside first, and then you feel good about yourself because you had a big question validated. Like, am I valuable? Do I deserve to be respected? You're pinging that question out into the world, and the answer that you get back affects how you feel about yourself. And clearly this is not correct, but we all do it. Everybody does it. And if you're being triggered around respect, it is because it's shaking you in your self-respect. If it doesn't shake you at all in your self-respect, it doesn't become a respect issue. You just address it because it's just a thing about the bathroom being hogged up, right? So then we go back into just practical solutions. If it's just a question about what would be a good way to, make sure that nobody gets locked out of the bathroom when they have to pee, do we have a time limit? Do we put up a schedule so everybody has time of day when they can have an hour to themselves in the bathroom? Like, you can ask those kind of questions, but there's no emotional trigger. If there's an emotional trigger, it is because this behavior is shaking you in that place. And that goes for your partner as well. What I mean to say is that if you need to be respected by your partner in order to feel okay about yourself, you're not looking at how to get the most out of life, the most enjoyment, the most satisfaction, the most happiness. Because if you're with a partner who doesn't respect you and you keep trying to make that be okay because maybe you misunderstood, or maybe he just needs another chance, or maybe he does, it's not very sustainable. It's going to build and build and build and build until there is like an avalanche of resentment that comes out because you have been continually betraying yourself in little tiny ways by accepting that you're not being respected, accepting that you are not being valued as the invaluable person that you are. You are looking at what's coming back and saying, well, I guess that's as much as I deserve. I guess that, because that's what's coming back at me, that's the level where I should respect myself. That's not sustainable. So this is why I say that the stepmom journey is your ticket to the most incredible expansion, and elevation of yourself and your identity that you could ever possibly have. There is nothing in the world that can push you to move forward on your own journey of self-respect like being in a step family. It is nothing like being in a family of origin where you have a husband and you create children together. It is a completely different dynamic for 10,000 reasons. But this experience is so valuable because this is going to lead you across a threshold across a threshold of self-actualization and self-transcendence, even, I would say, that nothing else in the world can do for you. So I hope this was helpful. I hope you're going to keep digging through this group for more of these good conversations. Go check out the Essential Stepmom podcast. There is a podcast for the dads. It's called Undeletable Dad, with all kinds of parenting training, all kinds of advice. It's specifically about parental alienation. So all of those high conflict circumstances where the kids get harder and harder and harder to connect with and to build relationship with as they move into their teenage years. And this is another whole side issue of respect, right? Like, kids don't want to be disrespectful. They are expressing something. They're expressing an incredible tension that they're living with, sometimes with overt pressure involved, and sometimes all the pressure is coming from inside. And sometimes they just have to express how bloody hard it is to live like that, and you end up on the receiving end of it. And it's not about you. It's about a situation that they didn't ask for, and that's very hard to live with. So another level again, is to respect the difficulty that the kids are living with, and the whole move on and deal with it paradigm is also not sustainable. It doesn't work. So listen to the podcasts, get what you can, ask all your questions in this group. We have a wonderful group of women here. I'm in the group all the time answering questions. If you're ready for this next level journey of working on yourself in this way, reach out to me and we can talk. Thanks for watching.